You start? Oh,
Yeah.
8 seconds. About time to tell me to start. Okay, I'll do that.
There we go.
We are
We're
live.
live.
Okay, we
Great.
are live for another week. Yes. So our topic today, we're trying to get behind the scenes in G Suite for people who, a common element of this broadcast is that people who are curious get to kind of lead the conversation. And today, Gary and I are particularly curious about G Suite admin kind of stuff because we both have increased responsibility, I think, in that area, but we don't have increased knowledge yet.
Yeah,
So we're kind
I
of
agree.
kind of working on that. So,
So
go ahead.
with the introduction. So let's have first Georgina. Go ahead. Let's introduce
Hi.
ourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgina, and I'm joining from Jordan. Really excited to be back with my crew. Do you want me to share
Totally.
anything or just hi?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks,
That's fine.
Georgina.
Good.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Which way am I going?
I don't know.
All right.
James. There
Okay.
you
Hello. How is everybody? This is going to be a shock to everybody, but I've got no knowledge on this whatsoever because I don't do any of this. But I have just updated my new little tool, RDPT. It now has reading ages on it, which was a big request. And not only reading ages, but not the rubbish ones. My reading ages are actually context aware, which basically means everything needs to be aided. So I think that's just really nice. Feel free to go on the website and have a play with that. And one of my teachers turned around to me and said to me, "This will save me 30 hours of planning a year."
That's so nice.
Which I couldn't believe, and I'm so pleased for that.
That's so great.
So it's getting around the school, and it's getting around Thailand at all good schools in Thailand, and all good schools in South Korea, and all good schools in the Middle East, I hear. And in the Philippines, everybody at home, I assume.
That's very cool.
And in Singapore, we'll see.
Yeah. The reading level thing, the taking into context, the context is really, really needed. So that's very cool.
Yeah, and it does both. It does the not aware and it does the aware, and you can see the difference straight away. And it's really quite powerful, especially with the bar charts, because it's that advanced vocabulary that's killing you.
Very cool.
So that's what's been fun for me.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm Gregory here from the Philippines. I am trying to learn admin console. That's why we have this session. I insisted.
Yay.
Okay, we have the next one, the expert here and here. Okay, go ahead, Julius.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Julius, based in Singapore. Right now, we're in the third day with no cases in the community. So we are going into phase 3 pretty soon. So this is the best news in the past 7, 8, 9 months. And before that, I used to work as I was working for another school in Malaysia where I met James and others. And I was to be a super admin a Google super admin at that school. That's it. So I'm more interested about the process of getting licenses and the process of when the students enroll in the school and how do we create, and maybe we can talk a bit later. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now the expert whom I met in Singapore as well. I just realized days ago in a photo that we were together.
But before that, let's congratulate Julius for having ISTE certification.
The ISTE certification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, great. Hey, go ahead, Sunny.
I've been. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to admin. I have been playing around in it for about 7-8 years now, and it's changed so much over the years. I've actually really enjoyed seeing all the changes come out. Also, having a training domain is incredibly useful because it means that you can play around with stuff without actually breaking it. And if you do break it, it only affects yourself. So maybe we can talk a bit more about that later. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what people are trying to get done in the admin. And then hopefully, either, anyone here has the answer to that, or we can figure it out together.
Cool. Well, expertise is definitely relative, Mr. 7, 8 years. Nice to hear. Like 7, 8 weeks right here. 7, 8 weeks. Yeah, and in case anybody has noticed like a heck of a lot of pointing, I heard that somebody around here was like really an impressive video pointer or something. So I'm just saying that, like there's a lot, it's catching on. It's catching on, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's one of the hardest things to do when you're making a video pointing the right way. It is incredibly
There's one-
difficult. And she
there's
just
one
knocked
there.
it out of the park. First video, she had it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the best people to learn from. Wait, where is it?
Yeah.
That way. There we go.
I'm still pointing the wrong way, so don't
Yeah.
you say that.
Yeah. So Gary, what is like when did you start? Like when did your admin responsibilities start, and what kinds of tasks have you had to do so far that have been challenging? Just curious.
Well, it just started this pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. So
Because-
you mean like a few
because,
months?
We have to go online, and
Mhm.
I don't even know anything about admin. I just read it before ahead of time, but having a hands-on about admin console, I don't know anything. That's why I keep on asking you, how do you do this? How do you do that?
Yeah.
That's why I insisted. So I had few months, not really a month. If you will ask me, how long have you read about admin console? Around 5
Mhm.
hours. That's it. So I want to know, how do you make? What are the best practices for implementing in using? Because my problem is, parents are asking, we cannot use the account, the Edu account, in their mobile devices. So I
Mhm.
thought it's automatic when you use it. When you log in the account, the Edu account, it will be fine with any device, in any device. And
Yeah, you
then
would think.
I got some reports that, hey, we cannot use it on my mobile phone or in my iPad. So why is that so? So that's my first question.
Yeah. Has anybody else had any parents
Why
or
not
anybody with?
automatic in a mobile device? In a computer, desktop or laptop, it's working just fine. But
Yeah.
in a mobile device like Android devices or iOS, it's not automatic. Why is that so? So why? So anyone
So I
from
guess,
go ahead, Georgie.
yeah, I guess my first, so just to clarify the question though, this is why is Google not working in a mobile device or a specific
By
part?
default, yes. By default, it's
By,
not working.
Do you mean the whole thing? Drive,
so
G Suite, anything?
It cannot be used in a mobile device like iPad. So I think I have to do something about in the admin console setting. So it's not
yeah,
automatic to log in.
so usually we would just go through like troubleshooting steps first, like what specifically, like Eric said, are you trying to use? So if like a student or a teacher or a parent is trying to use the Drive app, for example, or Chrome, we would ask, is the app installed and have you updated it? And then moving on to the software. So like, and the iOS, for example, if it's Apple. So we just go through different troubleshooting steps. So that's why we're asking, like, is it the whole of Google, like everything, nothing works? That's a whole other question in itself. But
right.
yeah, we start with each app because a mobile
Yeah.
device uses apps. Even if you try to open Google Classroom or anything like that in your Chrome, it's always going to open out of app after.
Yeah.
So let's say the apps are installed, because using a personal Gmail account, it's working just fine. But when you use an Edu account, it doesn't work. So the app is updated, it's installed. So I don't know why. So can you?
Well, here's one thing that I have found extremely useful, is that, I mean, as a regular user, I was like, where the heck is the help on this thing? Like, you can see all sorts of like help online, but you can't like talk to a person. But as an admin, then you have access to tech support like that. It's just like you can go to your admin console and click on the support button and talk to people. And I mean, I'm getting to know these people. Like, I'm like talking to them a lot. So I would probably go in that direction. And like, you might go just like, Georgina was saying, like on a case, like a step-by-step basis, maybe with particular users who are willing to, to help out, and try things when requested. Oh, do this, do that, and see what fixes it. Because who knows? It could be so many things. I would guess from the reaction or lack thereof that maybe this isn't an issue we've experienced ourselves. So yeah, you might be able to get direct support on that.
It interested me too, because Gary said that like none of the EDU users, so like none of the email addresses for his school account were working. So then I start to think, oh, is it something related to the OU? So like, are all the students not in the correct OU, or do they not have the correct permissions? So OU, yes, good question. So the OU is the organizational unit, and so when a school adopts a domain, so your domain is kind of like the home of your school that lives virtually in the cloud. Now, I'm not an engineer and I don't have an IT background, as many people next to me and below me know. So if my terminology is not spot on, don't judge me, okay? But basically, that's how we explain a domain in like, Georgina terms, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
And
home in the cloud.
yeah. So when we get a domain, we need to set it up, right? So when G Suite Enterprise Education or G Suite Education comes to the school, then the G Suite administrator, who is the person who has access to that admin console, and or the IT manager, it should be the IT manager, in my humble opinion, at a school. Then they set up organizational units. So you have to think of everybody in your school community like specific users. And what do you want those users to do? Because what the students do is not going to be the same as what the teacher does, as what admins do, and as what IT do. So you have to think of it like a big family, and how are you going to divide it up?
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I would say is for quite a long time there have been many templates for this, and I would always suggest going through a lot of those templates and thinking about what's the absolute best model for your school. Because I remember from 7 years ago when I set mine up, the templates didn't exist. But since then I'm like, oh yes, that would be really handy.
I'm super curious when you say that, like if I were going to look up those templates, how would I look, how would you look that up? What would you Google it to find those? Because template's a common word. So what kind of templates are they?
Yeah, I think probably admin organization groups or something like that. SETI.
Well, basically what we did, and I can only speak from experience, not so much what we should do, because obviously it's what we've done, and a couple of things we've done have been very wrong, and we've thankfully we've learned from that. But I think it all depends on the size of your school. A smaller school may require a different way of setting up your OUs or your your structure. If you have a school with thousands of students, obviously you'll organize things differently. But what we did was we actually had a meeting with the entire management team and the leadership team, and we said, look, what is the most logical way of organizing all our students? We didn't talk any tech, we didn't talk about admin, we didn't talk about any. We just said, look, we have say 400 or 500 students. What is the most logical way of grouping these? Are we going to go by graduation year? Are we going to go by year group? Are we going to go by, okay, now once we've made that step of putting them into groups, what happens every August as they move from one year into another? How many steps are involved in changing the names? How many steps are involved into in changing their OU settings? Which obviously, as an admin, you think about OU settings, but as management or as leadership or as a teacher, all you're thinking about is the year 7s become year 8s, the year 8s become year 9s. But from an admin point of view, that could be an absolute pain. If you've put year 8 into your email name,
that'd be horrible.
you're in trouble.
Was that one of the mistakes you're talking about?
Actually the thing that we did is, because we are a fairly small school, we went by graduation year, which is what a lot of very big schools do, which is a great way of doing it. However, because we're such a small school, it creates a lot of confusion for teachers thinking, but what year are they going to graduate? Because we also don't go all the way up to year 12. We stop at year 9. So it didn't really make sense for us to go by graduation year. So we do go by year groups. However, we're small enough that it literally takes 10 minutes to change all the group names, and that's it. If you had a school with thousands of students, that would be much harder. I think, Julius, is that what you experienced as well?
Actually, I just want to back up everything what you said and what Georgina said, because managed back, for instance, in the IB schools, managed back runs by the graduation. So graduation class of 2021, 2022, and that's how you get grade 12, grade 11. And that's one would just like be carried away every single year without changing that.
Right.
And also, you're very right. In a small school, I used to be part of that committee, which when we set up the whole domain, and when we created in a small school in Malaysia the OU for the school. Actually, what we did one for the students and one for the teachers, and then the teachers were in subgroups of like grade 8, grade 7 departments: English, Math, Science, INS, Humanities as well. And for the students, we had by grade level, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. And that's what we just moved them up next year. So that was a very, very simple process. However, the main problem of being a small school, there was no communication and there was no sort of license. So everybody would come to me, hey, I have a new student. Can you just create an email address? So there was no paper, no formal, no notification, nothing. So I could come to you and I say, hey, can you create this one? And immediately I say, sure. And I create an email that sometimes I made emails for like Google Classroom or just to practice and stuff. But now working in a school, as Seti said, we have like 2,000 students. We changed the domain for that. So our email, actually, okay, let me go back. In a small school, what we did, we had a differentiation. So the student email address was firstname.lastname@school.edu.my.
Yeah.
And for the teachers, you had like the first initial of the name dot surname. And that's how you differentiate, right? If you want to write to a teacher, you just write J Gary or something, J dot Gary, right? J dot Abla at Gardens or whatever. Now we have the first name dot last name at the whole school, but being in Singapore, we have first name dot last name at jest.sg, while the students have at student.jest.sg created an extra domain. So maybe you have something similar.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this discussion a couple of times because we've actually had a change of admin halfway through, and well, not admin, a change of leadership, and because of that, a new naming convention was starting to be used, and it just creates a lot of confusion. And I think what you need is a very clear directive. And I know this sounds terrible, but one person in charge. When there's too many cooks, everybody has their own opinion. Someone to see student in the name, someone to see first letter. And the problem is, if someone is in leadership, it's very hard for an admin, a member of staff, who has to actually listen to what that person in leadership says to then action it or to give a pushback, and they don't really give that pushback, so they just go with it, and then you end up with 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 different naming conventions, which could create an absolute headache further down the line. So I'd say one for teachers, one for students. If possible, have 2 separate domains, because you can even use you can use domain aliases. That is no problem. If you own a domain, you can set up your alias. So you can have, for example, we can have Thursday PD, and then we can thursdaypdguests.com. We can set that up. That's not too difficult.
Yeah, we just
talking about
go ahead. Yeah,
processes. We have so communication is key. So whoever, all of you probably said that because you know that already. So when students register, you have to have like a circle, right? And the person who is supporting Google Classroom, like the LMS for the learning, should be the last stop, right? To make sure that they're in their learning place. So it starts with they're coming, they join the school community, and they need to be in their learning space. And so what has to happen until you get to that space? And so the admin registers them, and then they go through the SIS, which is the school's information system. And hopefully, now that there's a lot more options, your school's information system will sync with your learning management system. But this is not always the case, like at my school. That's okay. So if it doesn't sync, then there's a lot more steps along the way. And then it goes to usually the admins for each of the respective schools. So like secondary and primary, or high school and elementary. And then it feeds into the correct place, because at the secondary or high school level, students have to be admitted into different classes, and primary, they're just going into one class, right? So it's a little bit different, but it basically goes through all of that. So, and then it stops with the instructional education technology coach at the very end, who runs the learning management system. So as long as you have a circle, and at the beginning of the year, the instructional coach and the G Suite administrator and the IT manager and the administration who does enrollment of students all meet and understand that cycle, then it should work okay. But that cycle has to be created, and you guys are right. Everybody has to adhere to it.
Yeah.
And we have a Google Sheet. And when a student enters, they enter into that sheet. And then there's all these little tabs, right? Who's coming, who's leaving, when are they leaving, and who's done what stage. And it gets ticked off as you go. So it has a cycle of what happens. So unlike what Julius was sharing, where somebody just creates an email address, no, it has a whole process, and it has to go through a system.
Correct.
Yeah.
I love that. However, realistically, and this is speaking from experience, the smaller the school, the more
less.
unlikely that is to happen.
That was the
I mean,
case in-
there's a very clear process. If you have a school with thousands of students, or multiple districts, or multiple schools, brilliant. Everything is sorted. Everything is set. You know, you've got that process you go through. When you look at a school, for example, my school with 300 students, 400 students, micromanagement is your biggest enemy. And so when a family comes to look at the school, they love it, they want to enroll, guess what happens? The head of school takes them straight to admin, they get enrolled, and before you know it, they're lost in the system. They may not have their device assigned to them, they may not have an account yet, maybe they're already in an account, they have access to Google, they're not in the correct OU because someone else has set it up. And then before you know it, you know, you've got meetings, you've got let's say you have your staff meetings, okay, what shall we do? We've decided we do this, we use this platform, we're all using Google Classroom, rather than having, again, a process for it, which I highly recommend. I always talk about having a process. I really want it. I think we should all have, you know, a set. All it takes is for one teacher to say, well, shall we just all set up our own classrooms? And the smaller the school, the more likely everyone is jumping on board. And then it's incredibly difficult when you have 10, 15 members of staff saying, yeah, it's just easier if we create our own classrooms and invite them. You try and be that one person saying, no, stick to the process. It is almost impossible.
Yes.
Unless you have, you know, that ultimate power. And I can see Julius sort of like, and it's great to talk. And I know all the people watching this, like there's people in big schools, small schools, and you know, we all have sort of like, this is what it should be like, and we would love for it to be. But I do feel that the smaller the school, the more micromanagement becomes an issue.
Well, I mean, there's just no distance between the top and the bottom. It's easier for someone to be like, I can just reach right down there and do, and everything makes sense to me, because it's like there's no perspective. Like you can't, you don't realize how far. Yeah.
When I used to work in a very small school, I was the only IT teacher, so I literally had all of the power, and it worked like clockwork, because when the student had an IT lesson, they got signed up to the systems. But this was quite a long time ago, and I don't think it would work now, just because the minute everybody walks in, they'll want email addresses, they want everything. But we literally used to have a technician came in once a week for an afternoon.
I love Nick's comments. Yeah, there is a reason for these gray hairs.
Okay, I would like to say something though, right? Because like I worked at a school before that was like 1,500, and now I'm working at a school that's around 700. So it's like half the size. And we were able to set up good processes. So I think, you know, it begs the question, how can we support schools that aren't able to have that culture, you know, because I really think it's all about, personally, from experience, relationships. And so if we're, and I'm not saying you all have bad relationships. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is how, no, come on.
I'm kidding.
how can we work close enough with the leadership and the IT department to become like one, so that we can create that new culture, and ask, start to build in that way. So this is the kind of thing. And I think you guys are right, though. It's difficult, right, in some school cultures. So
I mean,
don't know.
I quite liked it when I could do my own thing. I mean, I quite liked it because I could just do what I felt like. And at the time, the other teachers were quite happy with that. It's IT. He can do what he likes. And I'm in English and I'm in maths and I can do what I like in my lessons. So, that culture can work in some schools, but it means that SLT will have no data, will have no information, will have no, won't know what's going on in their school. And you know what? Funny enough, SLT themselves don't like that. And suddenly they will think to themselves, you know what? SETI down there, he's got quite a good idea. Maybe we should let him do that. And maybe we should set up some systems.
Yeah, and I mean, I do agree with that, but often it does take something to go wrong before.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there for quite some time now, and I've seen this at various schools. Everything is working really well now, but it's taken a lot more time than it should have taken. And I've heard this from many other people as well, that things that have taken them 4 years realistically could have been done in a year. However, it took something going wrong first before it was all set up. For example, look at your again, back to the admin, because I know Gary asked a question there about the mobile device management and stuff, and say that you've got your Chromebooks enrolled, and it took us, when we first rolled everything out, it took us about 6 months to realize that 2 of the kids had slipped through the nets and were on unmanaged Chromebooks.
Wow.
But that took 6 months, and it was only because it was flagged because of something. And it was sort of like, well, if that wasn't flagged, we would have never known.
Yeah.
And that's because of sort of we've got this amazing device, let's just start using it. Everyone is excited. And I mean, at that time, I mean, I was a class teacher with an interest in admin. The admin has always been outside of school. So I also feel conflicted in a way, because it is not my responsibility. That is not my responsibility in school. Outside of school, yes, I am a certified admin. I have access to an admin console. I have my own training domain, so I know what's possible. But it's not always the easiest thing to communicate. And in smaller schools, like, for example, Eric, you're in a really great position, but many schools don't even have your job position.
Yeah.
An EdTech integrator or a tech integrator, or many schools don't even have it. Many schools have their class teachers, and that's it. They have an admin, or they have an IT manager, and that person may or may not know the G Suite admin. They may or may not know what's possible. And so I think this is not, I'm not trying to bring negativity. I'm just trying to be real. And I think a lot of people that watch it will come across these things. And basically what I'm trying to say to everyone watching is, it gets better. Things will go wrong, and you'll learn from it. I mean, the amount of times that I've done things on my training domain and I've broken it and I couldn't log in anymore, my goodness. But that's amazing, because I've learned from that and I love it.
Yeah,
So,
I think what you're saying about making mistakes and having that be a motivator, I think that's really important. And I feel like awareness of what can be done, awareness of how things ideally would be, is a really good thing. Like, if maybe you mixing those two things, like if you the greater degree to which you understand that things could be and should be more organized and would benefit from that, you can be like planting some seeds in the right ears. You'd be like, actually this could be a problem, or if things were more organized than this, just wait for the mistakes to happen. And then I feel like that's like that the power of those mistakes is going to be amplified, because then you're not going to have the disorientation that immediately follows something horrible. Like, oh my God, you mean this is even possible? What, how could that be? And this is so horrible. And then, but if you already said, something, this kind of thing is actually possible. And then if it happens, they'd be like, I'm going to listen to that person that said that thing. like I feel like that combination could help schools of any size that are just getting into this.
I mean, the fact that we're having this discussion now, I feel like, I mean, I want to open up Google Drawings now and just start creating some sort of infographic on, like, you know,
Please.
here is 10 ways
Please.
of organizing your OUs, you know, like,
Oh my God, yes.
let's just all brainstorm it, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go by graduation year, we can go by year groups, we can go, what are the what are the positives of this, what are the cons, like, because there's so many resources out there, like on Twitter and on YouTube, and it's all very teacher focused. Where are the admin resources?
Yeah.
Where are the management resources that can sort of help them understand what's possible? Because I think it doesn't come from a place of not wanting to do it. It literally comes from, really? You can do that?
So, and I think also, it's very rare to get IT admins who have a good understanding of teaching. So, you know, the likes of Eric, those integrators are so important. Georgina too, I assume.
Do you mean like Georgina as in Georgina's job, or just Georgina in general is important?
Well, I was referring to your job, but now you say it, yeah.
hard to deny that.
That was me
nice.
for the day. Doesn't that count? I only get one today. Okay. No, but yeah, I think absolutely, like, the thing is, we need to close that gap, right? So like when I offer training to staff, we bring in the IT department. So like when I gave training at the beginning, like the IT team come in and they do Mojo Help Desk. I don't need to train that. They can train that. That's our service ticket desk, right? And when you bring them in and you close that gap and you make them feel like they're valued and that they're part of the team, and then when we go around to check lessons, I bring them with me. Oh, let's go check out how the tech's working in this lesson today. And it's the same when we're in virtual and distance learning. They can hop on classroom calls with us because we're in all of the Google Classrooms as well. So I think it's just about what is your vision? And I know that's difficult, as you all shared at some schools. And so, you know, I understand. I'm just saying, if you have the vision and you're able to try to do that bit by bit, you might be able to get to a part like that, you know?
Yeah.
That's good.
Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead, Eric. Go you first.
Well, I was just wondering, because, you know, Sethi had alluded to certain kinds of mistakes in particular. I just wondered, like, what kind of, Georgina, do you have any, or Julius, you know, like any other learning experiences that you could share to help people like us avoid some pitfalls that you might have fallen into?
I definitely would keep, so like just some tips to help you out. I don't know, would be like test users. So like with all these new features for Google Meet coming out, I have test users in all three of my different OUs, my organizational units. So I have student test users, I have teacher test users, and I have admin, and I also actually have parent test users as well. So that way we can test them from all different areas, so that really helps us prevent issues with, you know, parents at home, especially now in distance learning, because I'm able to log in as different OUs and make sure everything is working. So when you turn something on or off, that will help you a lot. So that's one thing.
Perfect. Cool. Nice.
One other thing I would say is, do not fast track your main units. That is where training domain comes in really handy to be on the bleeding edge. Hold it back. There's a reason why you have slow rollout and things like that. And I would always recommend any organization sticks to a slow rollout when it comes to rolling out to the main audience.
Gotcha. So a testing domain would be like a separate.
It might be your training domain, a training domain.
Yeah, and for people like me who don't have, I'm not that cool yet. So just get a separate one.
And as I say, keep it very slow, because then you'll hear the screams before it happens to your organization.
Nice.
Guys, I did find that some domains get feature updates before others. So for example, last week, my training domain, my G Suite trainer, because we're Google trainers, so that received, is Sethi laughing at me already? Okay, it's true. So my trainer,
I'm still waiting on some of those updates.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Gotcha. Oops.
Countries also affect things as well, a lot as well.
Yes, exactly.
So we go Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand.
Yeah. So Georgina, you got.
So it's just to say, like, that way, if you keep an eye on whatever domains you do have, so like I have my work domain and I have my trainer domain. So if you keep an eye on it, you might be able to test a feature in one domain before it gets to the other, or vice versa. But also, what happened this week was that one of the features came out in the middle of the day. It was the background blur, and a student was like, "Oh, look at this! I can blur my background now." And I was like, "Wow, it's arrived!" I was so excited, and so that could happen too. And then the next step, I made the training video, as you all saw. And then the next step was the next day, a bunch of people, oh, it's not working for me. And why? They have to make sure that their Chrome is turned off and reloaded again. It might even need a full reboot because of the cache that it keeps in the Chrome browser, and. So you have to go through troubleshooting steps. So it's really awesome, though. I know Sethi's not happy he has not got his updates yet, but I'm so excited that G Suite is rolling these features out, because there's some really good safety stuff come out that my school are really happy with too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it, but the amount of times I'm having to bounce from domain to domain because obviously I try to make the videos as soon as possible. Now I'm incredibly thankful that I've got access to 7 different domains, so that is something that I'm just I can't. I mean, that's amazing, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily have that. And then sort of you go in and you're like, okay, the blog says it starts rollout on the 22nd. It is now the 24th. We don't have it yet. However, as soon as it rolls out, students and teachers will start using it. We've got to get there, make sure that they are aware of the changes coming. Like, for example, now with citations. Citations came out yesterday. Google Docs, whole new way of doing citations. Now, for years, we've been showing them how to do it within the other, the Explore window. Well, now it's separate. It's the citations window. So I would, as an admin, especially as a new, and even as an admin that's already been doing it for a while, follow the update blogs, because they will give you the heads up. If you follow the blog, they will give you a very clear heads up. Rollout starts 22nd. Rollout starts 24th. That doesn't mean you will get it the 24th. That means you may get it, but it could also take up to 15 days, 20 days, 28. We don't know that, but do follow those blogs and maybe even make it part of your routine. Every morning, log in, just have a quick look. Has anything new? Okay, we're good, and carry on. Like Georgina said, then you know that, background blur is coming. So any minute now, it's possible that halfway through my lesson, students start blurring themselves because it's coming. It gives you a great heads up.
Stress that a part of the reason for that is that we are in the middle of the night as far as the US is concerned.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it happens to us.
I was just going to say that, because the other thing that you want to keep an eye on as a G Suite administrator is this outage. Is the outage link. So the dashboard for if there's any outages anywhere. And the thing that's interesting that James just said was about the time zones, because you guys, especially in Asia, are the furthest time zone, right? You guys are first. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not good at time zones, so I'm asking. Okay. So so you may experience part of the outage first, but it may not be on the dashboard yet, because a lot of users haven't actually shared it with G Suite yet. So that's one thing. But yeah, this dashboard that I just shared now will definitely help you out a lot. It's updated daily. So like if you open it now, for example, it says there is a outage for Google Chat that happened on the 18th of September. Not now, not to alarm anybody. It's not active now, but it was on the 18th. And it gives you different colors. So it's either like no issues, a partial outage, like disruption, or a full outage. So yeah, it's really handy to have.
You also get, as an admin, I'm not sure if it's both admin and super admin, but you do get emails about sort of service disruptions. You can switch those on. They are incredibly helpful, because you'll actually get an email saying, okay, there's a service outage. It's possible that about 50% of your users are not receiving their emails. And then when you do get an email from a teacher saying, oh, I'm not getting any, well, maybe it is because of that. And then you can go check the status of the apps.
Okay. Yeah,
There's
I gotta
also
look into that. Like
there's also go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Go.
Well, I mean, I've found that, when you dig, you can find out like notification settings and things. I mean, is that somewhere in the settings for because I don't get those. I haven't gotten those yet, and I am a super admin. So it's like, is that something you turn on and off for your domain or your
Let me
users?
just have a quick look.
I'm pretty sure
it should
you're
be on
the
by
person who
default,
owns
but
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
In the org, let me open my dashboard here to tell you
I
exactly
just want to
where.
say that it looks kind of like Sethi and Julius are in the same room. Just saying,
Yes, yeah. With the background.
I love that.
Roomies.
Yeah. I think we went
That
to
is so
IKEA together.
cool.
Look, Georgina's got a green screen behind her. We can do what we want. We can
Yeah.
superimpose that.
Yeah. I also want to say that the hosts are supposed to wear blue, and so
Yeah,
that's
they're
everybody knows. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
so
didn't know
funny.
that.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I also wanted to say that there is a Google Cloud Connect community for admins. And when you become an admin, you can connect to this cloud community with other admins. And so it's kind of like a PLN for troubleshooting and all kinds of stuff. You get updates. Are you laughing at me,
Okay.
Eric?
No, I was just laughing at Shannon, who said she was
Yes.
just thinking. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. No, I'm totally interested in what you're saying. Really, I am. Okay.
I was like, it's good. It works. Come on, man.
No, I was looking for a link, and then I saw that she said that. So yeah, how do we get to
Here's
that?
the link
Yeah.
for the Cloud Connect community. So what I did when I first became a G Suite administrator, that's when I was working in Egypt. And I saved all of these links and I put them in my Google admin bookmark browser, and then I just added them all. So they're really handy and quick to open if I need it.
Cool.
And so that is there, and you can register. I think Sethi can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it takes them 24 to 48 hours to approve because you need to send an email to them, right?
Yeah, they do pre-approve it, but once you're a member of it, it's incredibly useful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Wow. Nice.
And this is also available. I'm just got my browser thing, my domain open here. Yeah,
I just shared my screen just to
Oh, yeah?
answer Eric's. Is everyone seeing this?
Yeah.
So within the admin console, instead of looking down here, which is
Uh-huh.
obviously a good place,
Right.
I think the fastest way is just to type it in the search at the top.
Yeah.
So what you're looking for is security. So you're looking for
Okay.
the security tab. Maybe if I spelled it correctly. There we go. Oh, no, not that one. Goodness, what am I doing? Security. There it is.
Okay.
Within your security, you've got your security rules.
Okay.
And this is where you set up your notifications. So once you go within your security rules, you can see there are so many different things. So you can apps outage alert, send notification, and you can turn that on, turn it off. Calendar setting change, turn it on, turn it off. You've literally got anything. There's even this here, leaked passwords. So as soon as a password of one of your users has been leaked, you can get a notification. That is terrible.
Nice.
That is awful, guys.
All this can literally be turned on or off. So what you're looking for is your security rules.
Okay, perfect.
And by the way, when your password gets leaked, you're not a loser. It's not your fault. Okay.
Oh man, this is gonna go down in history, man. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is in the account settings. Okay, the account setting is where you can turn on how your domain receives updates. So you can choose rapid release, which means it comes really quickly.
Okay.
And you can choose scheduled release, which is more towards what James was saying, that we should be slow to share with our school community. I personally am of the opposite thing, and that's okay. James and I don't have to agree on everything, although James is going to be my mentor. So James, don't hate me now, okay? So I have my domain on rapid release, and I just make sure that I get in there right away and open my test users and test everything. And once I'm secure that it's working, then I release either one of Sethi's videos or one that I've made to my staff to show them how to use stuff. But if you go into the admin console, into account settings, there's also the last option at the bottom is called email, and you can do a quick one of the 4 email notifications to send to you, and you can turn on feature announcements, and that's when you would get an email update. So there's feature announcements, tips and updates, offers from Google, and surveys and testing invitations. So if you want to be part of a beta program as a G Suite administrator, you click on that checkbox and you can get the invites if you want to participate in that. Now, I don't ever participate in the betas on my school domain. I only ever do it on my training domain.
Okay.
Do you want to quickly pull that up so that Eric can have a look at it? Or
yeah, let me share my screen then. 1 second. Y'all can see that?
Yep.
Okay, so then from the main console, so we basically go here to account settings.
Okay.
And then just at the bottom, we have here, there we go, email options in the middle under preferences, and you click the arrow. And then down here, you have communication preferences. So you can click on the pencil button and you have all of those.
Nice.
Which I don't have turned on because that's my training domain.
Yay. Yeah. I mean, like right now we have some people who are like admins who probably shouldn't be, and super admins who are like, why am I getting all these messages? Well, it's because you're a super admin, and I don't know, we might have to rethink some things, but I see that information looks massively appealing. So yeah, some of those people might be getting some messages until they tell me to make them not super admins anymore.
If you do know, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to say, Eric, if you do know you're going to be in an admin position for like a full year or longer,
right?
I would highly recommend that you either get a domain or you pursue the Google Trainer certification, even if it's just for the perk of being able to set up your own training domain. Because having a training domain makes such a difference in terms of testing things out and just seeing how things work, and not having to go into the school domain and potentially even breaking things or breaking GDPR or, like, for example, when you look at some of the capabilities of the Google Vault, which is a whole other side of it. But that's something you can test on your training domain, see what's possible without actually breaking any sort of ethical boundaries. If you would do that on a live domain, because there are definitely things that are unethical that are possible with that. But it's important to have them in case something goes wrong. So having a training domain allows you to then play around with that, really get to know it without going into something you shouldn't be going into.
Because if I understand right, I mean, you're saying like there are situations when privacy is not the most paramount concern, situations of safety when you would need to use a certain kind of administrative access to get into things that would normally be inviolate, private, but you wouldn't want to test that out.
You don't want to familiarize yourself on a live domain with something like that.
Exactly. I do want to stress that it's important to communicate to the children that everything they do on the domain is not private.
Really useful.
That it is owned by the school, and that you should have no expectation of privacy whatsoever.
Absolutely.
That way, you're setting out your stall very clearly, and then parents can be told very clearly that while at school, those are the rules, and this should be only for educational purposes. It gets
really
very
good
scary when you send Chromebooks and iPads home and things.
It's really good that he said that, because there's actually terms of service. So this is something that I helped develop in the IT policy that we set for our school. I'm going to share the link in now. And the terms of service were updated in the last months. I'm sure they're always updated. Anyway, there's the Google terms of service, March 31st. And there's pieces in there for education, like when you go through the different tabs, it gets to the education, and there's a whole letter that you can send to your parent community that explains that yes, nothing is private and that everything is by Google and so you can take that piece and you can put it into your IT policy for your school or the parent contract, if it's an international school, for example, that they sign, like that's what we do. And so they're fully aware of the terms of service. So we put in all of these links, and so it's very, very transparent. So I definitely would say if you're able to pass that to your IT team or make sure it's included in the IT policy if you are a G Suite school, that would be super awesome. And I guess that would be the same for Microsoft, right?
Yeah, that's the same. And
Yes.
we actually we have a 2-term year. And at the start of each term, we actually remove access from the accounts, and we go through the acceptable use policy with our students and their parents. And so basically we break everything down. If they agree to all that, and it's just to make them aware of, nothing is private, and this will happen. And if this and this happens, then we can go into your accounts, we can do this. So basically we break it all down in everyday language, and then as soon as they sign the acceptable use policy, they get access to their accounts, but not before that, because we do want to make sure that if something was to go wrong, that everything is already clearly defined in terms of privacy, in terms of security, safety, and just safeguarding in general.
And legally speaking, it's very important that it's the parents who sign.
Yeah, we have both.
I know it sounds really obvious, but it actually doesn't matter what the children sign.
No, but we have the children sign it, so they would be aware of it.
Yes.
So we do expect
and I think
both
it's good to give
sign
them a sense of
but
responsibility,
we want
but
to
legally,
give them that responsibility.
But yeah, legally, it's got to be the parents that sign it.
Yeah.
And I think SETI set the gold standard there that your kid only gets access to the school when they have signed it. A lot of organizations also put it, when you go into the parental portal for the first time or something like that, it comes straight up at you and you have to accept it before you go any further.
It's actually part of...
I like that idea.
Yeah, because we have them both. We have the acceptable use and also the photograph consent form together sent out at the start of each term, because we do want to make sure as well that all our parents make it very clear, do you want your child's pictures or images used for internal use, external use, intranet only, advertisements? So they basically say yes or no to all of those, and then it goes on to the acceptable use policy. They read that, they sign that, and then access is granted.
And
Yeah,
it's so important,
is
especially in an international setting where a lot of families could be like expats or etc. Like these things come up a lot. So
yeah.
I agree. I think we have 3 acceptable use policies, if I'm not mistaken. So I totally agree with that. I wanted to share something else out with you guys. This is the admin help support link. And so if you need support with anything to do with G Suite admin, just like any of the other G Suite apps like Meet or Classroom has their own help page, the admin also has their own help page. So you can use that if there's any questions. Now, I wanted to loop back to Gary's question also, because poor Gary asked his question first at the beginning and we never got back to his question. Gary, we love you. I'm coming back for you, okay? All right.
Okay. I'm learning a lot because I have to know all these things, the policies, that the guidelines that you're being given. It's very, very useful.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, Gary, that as far as managing like Android devices here in Jordan, where I live, actually, which is a little different than where I came from, which was Egypt, they're actually a heavy Android community. So I've had to like get back to the books and study on Android devices because I use everything Apple. So it's been a good learning process for me as well. But just so you know, in the admin console under the devices section, Google is always updating, and you can now add those devices into your domain. So if you, and I know you guys, Gary, are in distance learning, so I don't know if this kind of thing is going to be possible right at this particular moment for your IT team, but if your guys are able to get your devices into the console, it's not only going to help with security, but it will help with any features. So like, for example, if you have any apps or like Chrome extensions, for example, like I force install the Chrome extensions that our students need into their devices. And the first thing in training every all the time is always, are you logged into Chrome? And it's really, really important on devices to do that. So when you go into your, actually, let me share my screen to show you guys. Now, this is my training domain, and so I don't have any devices installed there. But if we go back to the main admin section here, we have our devices. And so you can click on devices. And I don't know what your opinion is, Seti and Julius, but in my opinion, this is the section of the G Suite console that's had the most updates in the last 6 months. As you can see here on the bottom. So here, if you go to devices, you can actually add your different devices there. So as you can see, like I have my iPad and my iPhone in there, and they've been approved. So that means that my devices are approved to use the features that we set in this console. So like, again, it just depends what your school devices are. Like at the school I'm working at now, we have laptops, we have Android, we have Chromebooks, and we also have iPads, depending on the different ages of the students. So we have a whole lot in there. You can also manage your apps here. You can also manage Chrome extensions here. And obviously, we're not going to spend the whole session going through the console, but this is where you would go, Gary, to add, set up, and there's iOS settings, so you can set specific things for the devices that you need to. There's advanced settings, and you have security, and your sync feature is there, and so there's a whole lot of stuff. So maybe we do a part 2 of this session to go through specific things, maybe, if you guys want. If not,
I know.
Actually, to answer Gary's original question, in that window, pull it up one more time, Georgina. If you go into the device management, because I think Gary was saying that there are devices that are not being, that will not be approved, but need access. So if you go under device management, and then into the main setup, because basically your domain can be set to either basic mobile management, and that means that approving, blocking, unblocking is not available. Everyone is automatically approved. Or you are an advanced mobile management domain. And an advanced mobile management domain, that's where everyone has to be approved. So if you see there, it says enable mobile management. If you want to set it to basic, Gary, then anyone with their account can get access on their mobile devices as well. Advanced means that everyone has to be pre-approved. So if you put it on advanced, then you have additional features available. So the problem that you were experiencing is because you're probably set to either custom or advanced. Switch it to basic, you're good to go.
Well, in that kind of situation, then you would think that the super admin would get like a notification or something. How would you know if someone were?
As soon as you switch it to basic, if you set your notifications in the screen we saw earlier, every super admin sees that there was a change. So if you have multiple admins, for example, James is an admin on the same domain as me. He makes a change. I get an email saying that James has changed it.
Well, what I mean is, if you're on advanced or custom, then a user tries to use it. I mean, is there a way would a user like request access, or how would they get set up? Is it
that would be the way that Georgina showed?
Yeah, the user would never be told anything. Basically, the user is either going to be told, I can do this or I can't do this. And if they can or can't, they're going to then ask their teacher, oh, I don't have access. Then the teacher's going to email us, Eric, or IT to be like, hey, what's going on with this, right? So don't worry about your users ever getting weird messages or anything. In fact, for example, like it's just like the Google Classroom Meet link, right? Because it's a unique Meet link code. If the teacher is not in there first, which should be the way, then the student gets contact your administrator because you're not authorized. That's the kind of message they'll get, but they'll not, for a meet, but they're not going to get all this other, oh, do you want to do this? Are you authorized? No.
Yeah.
And that's why the advanced and basic is the way it is, because basic lets everybody in. Advanced allows you to fine tune things.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also you can do things like two-step verification, like that's just for, login, security, but we have that set up. And so you can, especially for admin. So if you're a G Suite administrator, like top tip is you should always be using, not like Georgina's screen share is here, you should always be using your admin console in an incognito window. And anybody with those privileges or any admin roles should have two-step verification set up. Yeah, absolutely.
And you can enforce that as well. So you can actually,
yes,
because we actually took it a step further and have all our teachers use two-step.
We too. We have that too.
And so,
and this,
well, I was
and
curious
this
about,
here,
go ahead. Yeah,
I just was going to say, because Eric, you were asking specifically about there are some people that you might downgrade from super admin.
Right.
I wanted to let you know that you can set up here in admin roles specific roles that you want for specific people. So like our secondary staff, not currently, but at my old school, I set up a specific role for them just to be able to reset their classes, their form tutor classes passwords, for example.
Yeah.
So you can set a role for specific things here.
Cool.
And these have been updated recently because I remember it used to only be super admin, and then one more, and now there's a whole range of different roles. So like the help desk and the groups and it's really good to sort of delegate different jobs.
Yeah, cool. What's the purpose? I think I could guess maybe. What's the purpose of doing it only in incognito? Why would you suggest that?
For added security, so that people can't, it's just protected. I don't have a good answer for that. That makes me not feel very intelligent now.
Oh,
Does anyone else?
No. There is a good answer. There is a good answer. And
Help me, James.
The answer is that as soon as incognito is closed, it doesn't leave any trace. So bypasses. That's kind of important. Otherwise, you're giving lots of clues to another user on that computer, for instance. As to how to get in.
We've put little cards on all the shared computers in the classrooms because, like, for example, in the design lab, we've got 5 Windows computers and they are shared devices. We've put little cards and it literally says on the top, always use incognito. And it's just for the students as well, because half the time they forget to sign out or they log into their Chrome browser. And then the next student does the same, and it syncs all the passwords between the 2 accounts, and now they've got access to everything.
Oh my God!
Use incognito. If it's your computer, do what you want. If it's a shared computer, incognito. That's the way to go.
You can create profiles on them as well.
If you're feeling a bit geeky, you can on these kind of computers, you can actually set it up, but it does require a bit of command line. So that
you'll
it always starts in incognito.
You'll have to show me that once we're offline, because I'd love to do that.
Okay, well, I have added it to the comments. It is properly geeky on that one, and that just helps things along a bit. And on that note, thank you so much. We haven't decided next week, but I'm going to be strongly suggesting.
James is wrapping up here.
Wow. I'm strongly suggesting we're going to do something on the coolest EAL tools and things available, extensions, you name it. We're going to show the coolest of the cool that will help your EAL and SEN students.
Sounds very cool.
Unless somebody's got a better idea.
No, the idea is great, but I did want to say, if anybody is wanting to have a little Google sheet to work through console stuff, and maybe even we want to have this, guys, in our Thursday PD to learn more about the console together. I created this Google Sheet training for admins, and so you're welcome to take a copy of that if you want. And when I train IT departments on this, like how to use it with their assists and their network, basically we use this. And as there's questions come up, we store the questions, we find the help file, and so everything is there. So just in case you wanted an extra resource, you're welcome to have that.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's amazing how when I suggest they'll close down, we get the best tips of the night. I mean, that is part of the trick, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, wait, I just thought something. Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
This is PD.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. This has been really cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Bye-bye.
See ya.